Is reincarnation real? The answers are yes, and kinda, and probably. Reincarnation was an idea I for many years discarded as nonsense, but the truth was I had never really given it much thought, and whenever the idea surfaced, like in conversation, I would dismiss the notion almost immediately. I was a materialist, an atheist, and I was arrogant and short-sighted. It was an existence that was hollow and empty at times. I've since mended my ways, and now take the concept seriously. So seriously, in fact, that I am convinced that reincarnation, in one form or another, is indeed real. The only questions I have left is how does it work and why? I'm gonna explore some possible answers to those questions here. An important note for this conversation. I treat the concepts of an afterlife and reincarnation as basically the same thing. Is a reincarnated life not an afterlife? Is life restricted to our experiences here on Earth? I don't think so, so I'll use these terms interchangeably. I hope you're on board with that. Now, before we move on, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm actively growing this channel and will be posting new content on a regular basis. Thanks again for taking the time to listen. Moving on. An afterlife is something almost every religion promises their devoted followers. I think that may be the reason why I dismissed the notion for so long. I don't trust many organized religions. I sought it out as a child. I was promised answers to questions I had, but the answers provided never delivered once scrutinized. I even minored in religious studies when in university. People thought I was studying to become a minister. What I discovered, more often than not, was corrupt institutions with archaic hierarchies, hypocrisy, and in way too many cases, flat-out criminality. The promise of an afterlife all too often was used as a tool to elicit a set of behaviors from the masses. Act in this fashion, donate these resources, and spread our word, and you, my friend, will bask for an eternity in God's light. I didn't buy it. So I'm not going to talk about religious answers to this question. Like I said, I never found any real answers there. Where I did find some compelling evidence for reincarnation was in, of all places, the sciences and philosophy. One possible answer is this. If the universe is indeed infinite, then it must follow that the atoms that make up your body and the circumstances that arose to bring about your life inevitably will come around again and again and again, infinitely. You will not remember your past lives, but your life and all the possible iterations of it would play out over and over, inevitably, in an infinite universe with infinite time. The problem with this idea, for me, is that I don't necessarily believe the universe is infinite. Maybe eternal, but not infinite. Maybe I just can't grasp the concept of infinity. Maybe that's just my monkey brain running up against its upper limit of understanding. Which is fine by me, I don't like to keep a lot of stuff around anyways. There is a viable theory that what we recognize as the Big Bang is indeed the beginning of a cycle. It's speculated that the universe will eventually fall in on itself, creating another singularity that will again expand rapidly, bringing about another universe and another life for you and me. Next, there's a physics example that supports the idea of reincarnation as well. I struggle to describe it, but I'm going to try now. It's said everything is information, including you. You can't be destroyed, you just transform into something else, and then over time, something else again and again. This is why many people treat the concept of death as an illusion. I tend to believe that. We understand the permanence of things on the smallest of scales, and we also understand that everything moves in cycles. Your life, right now, is a cycle. I can't find anything that isn't part of a cycle. Even our constructs, like the economy, moves in cycles. It's predictable. Cycles repeat. Your life is going to repeat. Now, perhaps the concept of reincarnation that appeals to me the most is Thomas Campbell's explanation of it. Campbell is a highly sought-after physicist that I've spoken about at length in another video. I'll leave a link to it for you in the description. Campbell is convinced that we exist in a digital virtual construct, not a simulation. Simulations are fake, and there is nothing fake about your experience. He believes that we are beings of light, existing in a virtual digital construct like a video game, temporarily inhabiting a mortal body, an avatar, in order to learn about suffering and love. We choose to inhabit these avatars and come back to experience this life in all its iterations. When we die, and I'm doing air quotes that you can't see here, we have the opportunity to reflect on our experience and then come back for a different experience. Empathy is our drug. So, we could come back as Donald Trump and experience everything he has and literally be him. Or as a stoic philosopher, limping along, accepting his lot in life and finding meaning in the now, and despite living in what we would deem as abject poverty, finding value and true wealth in everything available to him. Curiously, people who have had near-death experiences regularly recollect a feeling of extreme peace when slipping away from this mortal coil. Science explains this experience as the body's defense mechanism. The brain is flooded with endorphins, as if it's scrambling to find a way to defend against its systems shutting down. This sounds a lot like a built-in defense mechanism, but there's something backwards about it. Defense mechanisms evolve. Evolved traits are passed down through breeding. How does a trait that emerges at the end of life get passed down through breeding? It doesn't. It can't. So its origins must have roots elsewhere. I suspect that this phenomenon is there to ease us into another phase of our existence, like landing in a room full of pillows after taking a terrifying yet exhilarating ride down an existential slide. So, in closing, whether an infinite universe brings about infinite possibilities for us to take another stab at navigating this mortal coil, or that we never do actually die but experience cycles of different ways of being, eventually coming around to something familiar to the experience we are having now, or we do indeed inhabit an avatar in a virtual digital playground, I feel I know that one way or another, this life is one of many available to us. Either way, I focus on making this life the best it can be for me and the people around me, satisfied that we'll get to do this all over again, one way or another. Thanks for listening. If you like my work, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. And remember, this ride is not without risk. Be careful out there, and take care.